All right, for those of you joining us for our MCE open house, we're having a little issue with our Zoom webinar. It's asking folks for a password. So for those of you that are on, thank you for bearing with us. We're going to start this meeting probably, we're going to give it another 10 or 15 maybe minutes, but we'll try to recognize your time and keep us on schedule here. We just want to make sure that we can get to as many people as possible with this information. So we're going to go ahead and send out a quick email, a follow-up email that has the passcode, and we're going to blast it out on social media as well, so we make sure that as many community members as can attend this actually are able to. All right, so bear with us and thank you again. All right, it is 6:15, folks. We had a little bit of technical difficulties in the beginning of this meeting, so we wanted to give it a few extra minutes for folks to log on, and it looks like people are filling in here in our virtual Zoom space. So we will go ahead and get started. I'm going to pass it off to Sebastian Kahn with MCE, and he can tell you all about it. If you would like to use the chat feature, you can use the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and Jenna or Sebastian will be able to answer your questions. All right, take it away, Sebastian.
Yeah, thanks so much, Angelina. Hey, everyone. My name is Sebastian Kahn. I'm our Senior Community Development Manager here with MCE, and this is the second community engagement we've had with the City of Vacaville, as the city is looking to join and considering joining MCE. So as Angelina mentioned, I'm joined by my colleague Jenna Tenney tonight. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to drop them in the Q&A, and we'll do our best to answer those in real time. But we're also going to have time for Q&A at the end, so that's an opportunity as well. But just to dive into the presentation this evening, really thankful to be here and thankful for the City of Vacaville for hosting us. A little bit about MCE, we're a joint powers authority. We serve Solano, Contra Costa, Marin, and Napa counties. We were formed in 2010, and today we serve about 100,000 customers here in Solano County with clean, renewable electricity. We're a public entity. We're governed by a board of local elected officials, and we're not a private business effort. And at this time, the City of Vacaville is considering joining MCE as your neighbors in Fairfield, Vallejo, Benicia, and the unincorporated portions of the county have done. Tonight is really aimed to give you a better sense of who we are as an agency. We'll cover what billing looks like with MCE, the enrollment process. As many of you have heard, community choice programs like MCE do follow an opt-out model, so we'll discuss how that works. And we'll talk about what our community outreach and engagement efforts look like for getting folks up to speed on who MCE is and how it will impact their bills. So without further ado, I think we can dive in. So just a couple meeting expectations for this evening. Please let us know if you need any language assistance. At MCE, we do translate a majority of our information into Spanish and Chinese as well. If there are additional language needs outside of that, please feel free to let us know and we can make accommodations for you. Just some quick ground rules on the questions. We do want to make space for others to ask questions. So this is a learning opportunity, and make sure that if you're asking a question, you're being mindful of everyone's time in the room and give them the opportunity to answer their questions as well. And if you do have more in-depth questions beyond what we're able to answer in the Q&A, maybe specific to your bill, we're happy to answer those, and Jenna and I can put you in touch with staff to discuss that further. So a little bit about who is MCE, and we're going to kick things off with a quick video. Angelina and team, let me know if the sound is working okay on this. I know sometimes there's some challenges with Zoom and playing videos, so we'll go ahead and start.
I don't hear sound.
Not hearing sound on that?
Nope.
Okay, yeah, that always can be an issue sometimes with Zoom. We'll make sure to send you that video, Angelina. You can post it on the Vacaville website for folks to reference as well. But I'll keep going with the presentation. Really at the core of what we do at MCE is to buy and build clean energy for our communities. We enable 37 different jurisdictions throughout the Bay Area, including 4 communities here in Solano County, to purchase clean, renewable energy on behalf of their residents and businesses. And this slide illustrates a little bit about how that process works. I want to draw your attention to the far left-hand side of the slide here. This is what MCE is primarily responsible for. As you may know, your energy bill each month, your utility bill contains 2 main components as it relates to electricity. There is the generation component, which is how the power is made, how it's sourced, how it's procured. And there's also the delivery component, how that energy travels from point A to point B over the shared electric grid. So with MCE, we are responsible for buying and building cleaner energy, the generation portion of the bill. PG&E is still responsible for the delivery portion of the bill. So they maintain the poles and the wires, they send your bill each month, they address service outages. And the end result for the consumer, for the customer at your home or business, is that you have a choice of where your energy is actually coming from, whether that's MCE or PG&E. So this slide is meant to illustrate where our emissions are coming from, both in the state of California and throughout the country. At the core of what we're doing is providing renewable energy to our communities. And I want to provide some figures as to what that looks like at a macro level. On the left-hand side here, you can see the US emissions by sector. This is for the whole country. And what a lot of folks may not realize is that 79% of our electricity as a country comes from burning fossil fuels, mostly from coal and natural gas. And this is a stat from the Environmental Protection Agency. And that's why you can see on the left-hand side here that 25% of our emissions as a country are actually coming from electric power. That's not so much the case in California. As you can see on the right, we have about 16% of our emissions coming from the energy sector, from electric power. And that's because community choice energy providers like MCE have played a really important role in accelerating the state's transition to zero carbon electricity. As a state, we've purchased twice as much renewable energy than required by the state from 2011 to 2019. And that's why that percentage is lower in the state of California at only 16%. So just to give some background on community choice in California, you've heard me say community choice a few times now. That's the type of agency that MCE is. We're a community choice energy provider. And just to give some background, Assembly Bill 117 was passed in 2002 to establish community choice aggregation programs, also known as CCAs. So I'll use those interchangeably throughout the presentation tonight. This legislation happened primarily because California at the time, in the early 2000s, had a deregulated energy market. And as some of you may remember, we had an energy crisis as a state in the early 2000s. So Assembly Bill 117 was passed at that time because cities and counties said, you know, we want some more control over how our energy is being sourced for our communities. And we feel that customers should have choice in where their energy is coming from. And so the way that state legislation was written is the source of this opt-out model that I'm sure some of you have heard about, meaning that customers are automatically enrolled when their city or county votes to join a CCA. So this is not specific to MCE, it's the same for all CCA programs throughout the state of California. And a reason for that is we set really ambitious clean energy goals in the state of California. And if CCAs were an opt-in model, meaning that if a city chose to join MCE and residents had the option of opting in, there would be very low adoption rates overall. Typically, we see about a 1 to 5% adoption rate for programs that follow an opt-in model. And so with the interest of meeting some of these aggressive climate goals in our state, the goal was really to make it more of an opt-out model. And that's not to say that customers can't opt out and return to PG&E service if they choose to do so. If a customer wants to continue with PG&E as their generation provider, they can opt out of MCE service at any time. We're very transparent about that on our marketing materials. And in fact, when a new community joins MCE, we are actually regulated by the state of California to send 4 different pieces of collateral to folks, letting them know about their energy choices and the ways that they can opt out, which they can do by calling MCE directly. So just looking at the map here, MCE was the first CCA in the state of California, but we definitely weren't the last. All of the green counties here have active CCAs, with the yellow ones filing their implementation plans, meaning that they are exploring CCAs to serve customers. Today, there are about 11 million customers in the state of California served by a community choice program like MCE. And we represent about 40% of all of the investor-owned utilities load across the state of California. So it's not just a Marin, Napa, Contra Costa, and Solano thing. It's really across the state of California that CCAs are serving customers. So one of the key reasons that CCAs have expanded at that rate is that the CCA model is really making a significant impact in the state of California with regard to increasing the amount of overall renewable energy statewide. This has been validated by a number of research institutions, including the Luskin Center for Innovation at UCLA, as well as the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. And MCE specifically has taken important steps to ensure a delivery of reliable, environmentally responsible power supply portfolio to serve our customers. So our mission at MCE is to confront the climate crisis by eliminating fossil fuel greenhouse gas emissions, producing renewable energy, and creating equitable community benefits. And our vision, the way that we get there, is by leading California to an equitable, clean, affordable, and reliable energy economy by serving as a model for community-based renewable energy, energy efficiency, and cutting-edge clean tech products and programs. So this is just a snapshot of the communities that we serve. As mentioned, we are serving about 37, not about 37, we are serving 37 communities throughout the Bay Area. And this map helps illustrate that. So in total, this ends up being about 580,000 customer accounts, or about 1.5 million customers of people that are already receiving their generation service from MCE. So you can see here in Solano County specifically, we're serving Fairfield, Vallejo, Benicia, and the unincorporated portions of the county. Rio Vista, Dixon, Sassoon, and Vacaville have not joined MCE at this time, but that's why we're here tonight, to let you know about the City of Vacaville's interest in joining MCE and how we can better educate you about the process. So again, we are a not-for-profit public agency. We're not a private company. And just a little bit about our governance structure. All community choice programs like MCE report to and are regulated by the same state agencies that PG&E is regulated by. But the difference with the CCA model is that we are a not-for-profit public agency and we're governed by a local board of directors. So the way that this works is that each city or town that joins MCE service has the opportunity to appoint a member of their city council or the board of supervisors to our board. And our board goes on to make decisions about rates, customer programs, administrative decisions on behalf of the communities that they represent. The benefit of this structure is that it allows for transparency in rate setting and customer program implementation. Again, we don't have private shareholders. We are not beholden to corporate profits and paying out those shareholders. This is really about community choice and local control over energy. And here in Solano County, we have several folks that represent their respective communities on the board. John Vasquez has served on our board as a member of the Board of Supervisors for many years. You have Councilmember Carrie Birdseye from Benicia pictured here. Councilmember Doris Panduro in Fairfield served on our board throughout the enrollment process, and she's now a board alternate to Kate Patrice Williams, who's a council member in Fairfield. But this is really just illustrated to give you a snapshot of how our board looks and who the folks that are making decisions on behalf of MCE's customers. So a little bit more about agency compliance obligations. In addition to the board, and I did mention this, we are required to report to the same agencies that all of the investor-owned utilities are. Similar to PG&E, the way that we're able to provide energy to our communities is by working with and reporting to state agencies like the Public Utilities Commission and the Energy Commission. And these regulatory requirements really ensure that there's oversight to MCE's practices, and helps you know that your energy and where it's coming from are regulated. We do have a highly regulated energy system in the state of California, so wanted to highlight that here. So this is a slide that helps illustrate kind of what MCE's financials look like. We really strive to be innovative and efficient as an agency. We've secured 2 investment-grade credit ratings, and we were the first CCA in the state of California to do that. That's helpful in the context of energy providers because it enables us to go into the market and procure energy and develop energy contracts to serve you in a way that's more cost effective so that we can get our customers the best rates that they can. This is something that developers really look at and say, hey, this is a trustworthy agency. So that's the purpose of highlighting this here. We hold a number of short and long-term contracts with a variety of suppliers throughout the state of California, and 86% of our revenues go directly back into purchasing clean power. So there's no taxpayer subsidies. None of your taxes are paying for MCE. This is all recovered by MCE through our rates and allow us to purchase energy on your behalf. And then you'll see the remaining portion of the pie graph here representing 14%. 7% of that is going directly back into community reinvestments and reserves. It's really important to have strong reserves as an agency so that if there ever are hard financial times, we're able to have cash on hand to serve our customers. And the rest goes into operating costs. You can think staff time, administrative things of that sort. So clean energy leadership, we've been 60% renewable in serving our customers since 2017. And because of that, we met renewable goals as outlined by the state of California 13 years ahead of schedule. At that point in time in 2017, the power mix overall in the state was only about 29% renewable. So we've really made great strides in being climate clean energy leaders. And additionally, MCE's energy is a little over 90% greenhouse gas free, and we aim to be 95% greenhouse gas free by 2023. So now that you have a little bit of background information on MCE, I do want to get into your energy choices and just what it looks like for you as a customer. All right, so if the city of Vacaville decides to move forward with MCE, customers here would have 3 choices over where their energy is coming from. Right now, you only have one choice, and that's PG&E. Their energy is about 49% renewable. If Vacaville decides to join, customers would have 3 choices. So in the middle, the default option that folks would start on is our 60% renewable MCE light green product. We do have a 100% renewable option that folks can opt up to. This is not something you'd be automatically enrolled in from the beginning, but it is 100% renewable. So just a little bit of background on where that power is actually coming from. MCE's energy largely is coming from renewable sources. So what I want folks to take a look at right now is this middle section where it says MCE light green, as that would be the default option for Vacaville residents if they were to join MCE. So as of 2021, 60% of our light green products comes from renewable sources like wind, solar, geothermal, small hydroelectric, and bio-waste, bioenergy. Customers, again, can also choose that 100% option, which is 50% wind and 50% solar. And like all California electricity suppliers, both CCAs and investor-owned utilities like PG&E alike, MCE sends our customers a notice called Power Content Label annually, which helps customers better understand where their energy is coming from. So just a quick residential cost comparison. This is accurate as of January 2023, so the start of this calendar year. Looking at the 3 options here, an important thing to note is that MCE, we don't always claim to be cheaper than PG&E. I want to be very transparent about that. We offer a cost of service model, and what that means is that we want to offer the most value to our customers overall. Right now, in terms of total cost, folks do save about $1 with our 60% renewable option compared to PG&E. And over the course of our operation, we have been less expensive than PG&E about half the time. The MCE board of directors, the nonprofit local elected leaders that I showed you earlier, set rates for our electric generation. And we really value public participation and transparency throughout that process because that's, public meetings are where our rates are developed, discussed, and evaluated. And those are taking place at public meetings. So you have a real opportunity to connect locally with the folks that are making decisions about your city on your energy bills as well, or with MCE, which we think is a great value add. So just understanding MCE rates a little bit more, I want to cover what we bill for and what we don't. I know that your utility bills can be a little bit confusing, so want to break this down as best that we can. So right now, one of the biggest issues that consumers face on their bill as we're coming out of these cold winter months, for really the high cost of natural gas, gas makes up a large portion of a person's PG&E bill, and it's not something that MCE bills for. We don't have control over the natural gas markets. It's not something we bill for. We also don't bill for the electric delivery. So how the power is going over the electric grid from the transmission lines into substations, through the distribution lines, and eventually into your home. That's something that PG&E is billing for, and that rate gets approved by the California Public Utilities Commission. The only thing that we're setting rates for is the generation side of thing, which is approved by our local board of directors. Our rates are released to the public with a 30-day review and comment period, and we try to set our rates once a year. So this is something that you're probably familiar with. It's a pretty typical PG&E bill. So this is how it looks currently for folks that are not on MCE. You see your gas charges, you see the total amount due, but what I really want to draw your attention to is current electric charges. So this is what it looks like as a PG&E customer. As a PG&E customer, everything is bundled together in one line item, both the generation and the delivery. So that's what you pay for as a PG&E customer. However, with MCE, it switches just a little bit. So we show up as a generation line item on the bill. You're still paying the same amount for the delivery plus the generation. It's just broken down a little bit differently. So if we cycle back here in the slide deck, just to better illustrate this, again, you're paying, for this customer specifically, they're paying $159.36, both for the generation and the delivery bundled into one line item. With MCE, it's broken down differently. You have a generation charge of $47 in this instance, and $100 for the PG&E electric delivery charges. So that's how the MCE billing system would work. You'd still receive the bill from PG&E each month. It just includes an MCE generation line item. Again, not a new charge, but just is broken down a little bit differently on the bill. So discount programs, many of you are aware of some of the really valuable programs that we have in the state of California. The CARE program specifically, which is the California Alternate Rates for Energy, gives income qualified folks a 35% discount on their bill. With MCE, you're still able to get that. So if you're a CARE customer now and you're enrolled in PG&E, that still is eligible to you as an MCE customer as well. Same goes for medical baseline. If you have a medical dependent device, let's say like a CPAP machine, and you're on the medical baseline allowance for PG&E, that still applies as an MCE customer. And there's a number of discount programs as well, including the California Arrearage Management Plan, the percentage of income payment plan, and even PG&E employee discounts. You can still receive those as an MCE customer. So none of that is going away if the city of Vacaville were to transition to MCE. So rooftop solar, we know that a lot of customers have invested in rooftop solar over the year. And I want to break this down for folks so that they understand a little bit of the difference between MCE's program and PG&E's program. We do have a net energy metering program, or NEM, as you'll hear it referred to as, very similar to PG&E's. The main difference that you're going to see as an MCE customer is a monthly billing system. So if you're a PG&E customer, you're likely used to getting one large bill at the time of your true up. And at MCE, we want to help customers better regulate their monthly energy usage and avoid a large energy bill. And so that's why we bill on a monthly basis. So with MCE's program, you will have a monthly charge. However, at the time of your true up each year, you end up getting compensated at a higher rate with MCE. So the way that solar works is you have your panels on your roof. The solar is operating in the daytime and it's powering your home. And in the event that you're using less power in your home than it can need, power is generated and sent back to the grid. And so that's where the compensation piece works. PG&E at the time of your true up is compensating you at the wholesale rate. At the time of your true up with MCE, you are going to be cashed out at the wholesale rate plus 2 cents. So that ends up being about the retail rate of energy, which is bought and sold on the open market. So you are getting more cash back in the form of a credit on your bill through MCE system. Also, additionally, in the event that your solar is not producing, let's say in the evening time when the sun isn't shining, the power that you're drawing from the grid as an MCE customer is 60 to 100% renewable, as opposed to 49% renewable with PG&E. So community benefits, I want to talk a little bit more about some of the programs that we offer outside of the standard rates and how we're showing up on the bill. So as an agency, we do offer a number of customer programs that offer solutions both to residential customers and to commercial customers to save money and address climate change. Just to name a few, we offer free audits and rebates towards energy efficiency measures. We've given out $2.4 million in rebates as an agency, serving over 1,200 customers. We have an electric vehicle charging program as well. So we all know about some of the rules coming down the pipeline that is going to require new electric vehicles be sold in the state of California by 2035. An issue that comes with that is whether folks are going to have an opportunity to charge and where to charge. So we actually offer up to $3,500 per port for EV charging. That's available to the City of Vacaville if they were able to join to install EV charging. And we partner with our partners at the Bay Area Regional Energy Network to distribute $1,000 rebates for folks to install new energy efficient water heaters. That's really great as well. And that's just to name a few programs. Just diving into the programs a little bit more here, you've heard me mention the electric vehicle charging rebate infrastructure. So that's on the far left-hand side here. Energy efficiency and demand response is becoming a huge topic in the state of California. Commercial customers are asking us, how do we be more energy efficient? How do we use less energy to save on our bills each month? We actually have a program in place that pairs folks with a coach to walk them through some of the best practices in energy efficiency. And some of our larger customers, St. Mary's College in the East Bay comes to mind, actually saved about 15% on their energy bills by enrolling in some of our energy efficiency programs. So you can imagine that larger facilities in the City of Vacaville would benefit from those programs as well, all available to MCE member communities. A little bit more about local renewable energy projects. As mentioned, we do contract with a number of developers throughout the state of California, but here in the community, there are 22 local projects throughout our 4 counties that are actively serving MCE customers, which is really great. All of our projects that are over a megawatt in size require union labor and prevailing wage. And just to give a sense of scale, a megawatt can power about 400 homes on the conservative end to about 750 homes per the California Independent System Operator, one of our regulators, on an ongoing basis. So a lot of power being generated here locally in the community. And just to wrap up before we get to Q&A, really the power of MCE, we feel, is the ability to reinvest in our communities. We've reinvested 700,000 metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions since 2010. We have been 95% carbon free since 2023. We've reinvested $214 million in our communities, created 2.8 million labor hours and 6,000 jobs created. And one stat that I want to call out here that's not mentioned on the slide is that last year in 2022, I know I mentioned we don't always promise to be cheaper than PG&E, but we did save our customers $90 million in the aggregate across our 4 counties last year. So I think that that's a stat that's worth mentioning as well. So the steps to join MCE, kind of what the next steps look like for Vacaville. The first step is one that the city has already completed. It's city staff signing 2 required PG&E forms. These are non-binding forms. They're not a commitment by any means to join MCE. All they allow MCE to do is just to access the energy information for the city of Vacaville that will enable us to say, how can we best serve this load? How can we meet customer energy demand in the community? That's all those forms do. Again, not a commitment to join MCE. Before June 30th, so in the next 2 months or so, the city council would need to pass a resolution, an ordinance, and a memorandum of understanding to join MCE. So as part of that process, we partnered with the city to do a series of community outreach events, such as the one you're attending this evening, to better help inform that decision. So just by June 30th, that is the deadline for the city of Vacaville to consider joining MCE for a 2025 enrollment date. So at that time, the mayor would sign the signature page of our MCE joint powers agreement. MCE would concurrently begin to conduct a technical analysis of how we would best meet the demand of the Vacaville community. That information would be brought before our board of directors by the end of 2023, and they would say, yes, we want to include Vacaville as a new MCE member community. And at that time, that would trigger us submitting an enrollment process with the California Public Utilities Commission. They typically approve that in the quarter following fall 2023. So we would have confirmation either way from the state in early 2024. And at that time, the city of Vacaville would be able to join and enroll in MCE service in spring 2025. So as part of that process, what my team does at MCE is we conduct, in partnership with the city, a community outreach and enrollment plan. And that includes a series of public workshops. It includes media, advertising in the local papers, being out in the community at farmers markets and community events, and really educating folks about MCE service. As I mentioned earlier, we are required by the state to send 4 different pieces of notification to all eligible customers at that time. So if the city moves forward, you would start to see some of those notifications hit your mailbox in February 2025. So 2 months before the actual enrollment date. We typically start service in April of a calendar year, so April 2025. You'd receive an enrollment beginning in February, and then before the enrollment date in April. You'd also receive 2 additional notifications following that enrollment date. So up until June, you'd receive likely 1 in May and 1 in June as well. All 4 of those notification materials will tell you information about how to get in touch with MCE, what the cadence of our meetings look like, where we're going to be at in the community, and even how you can opt out. So I know we have highlighted the opt-out model, but it's something that we really value at MCE. We value your choice to choose where your energy is coming from. And so if you do decide that you want to opt out of MCE service, you can do that by calling MCE directly or filling out a form on our website. All of that information will be included in the notification mailers that we send out. So yeah, there's no cost to join MCE in 2023. This should really say ever. You know, if a new city wants to join MCE, there's not a cost associated with that. Again, no taxpayer dollars go towards joining MCE. We are a self-sustaining agency. We recover revenues from our rates and then reinvest that in our communities and buy cleaner energy. And that's this time. I'd like to end the presentation and offer the floor for questions. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And then Jenna and I will be available to answer any questions. But again, really thank the City of Vacaville for the opportunity to present this evening. And this information here is your best bet if you want to get in touch with MCE directly outside of this forum right now. So this is managed by our customer operations team. There are colleagues in-house at MCE. They're a fantastic team, and they're able to answer questions that you have as well. So with that, definitely want to open the floor to any questions that y'all have. Angelina, I see some raised hands.
Yep. So, oh, there we go. We've got some populating into the chat. Go ahead and use that Q&A function if you can, folks. So that way we can see if anybody has similar questions and then answer them all efficiently. And there we go.
Yeah, so let's answer some of these. Marion asks, is it any different if I lease my solar? No, there's no difference if you lease versus own. You would still be an MCE customer either way. Do I get a true-up bill from both MCE and PG&E? Yes, you'll receive the true-up for the distribution side of things for MCE, but you'll get cashed out, as I mentioned, from MCE. So again, compensating you at the wholesale rate plus 2 cents in the springtime. So you'll get both of those. Eric asks, you mentioned the rates are set by the MCE board. what has been the average cost of MCE compared to PG&E? Is it $1 a month? How is that a best rate? So I can't say that there's an average cost, Eric. You know, we're subject to the same market conditions that PG&E is. We both go out into the energy market to purchase energy on behalf of our customers. But the difference is PG&E's rates are set multiple times a year, and they're governed by the California Public Utilities Commission based in San Francisco. Ours are a little bit different in that we set rates once a year, and that is set by our board of directors. I'm not sure what you mean by how is that a best rate, but happy to answer any follow-up questions there. What Chuck asked, what is opt-out instead of opt-in? So Chuck, we talked a little bit about the state legislation that sets up community choice providers in the state of California. It's an opt-out model, just the way that the state legislation was written back in 2002. So again, this is not something that's unique to MCE. All community choice programs, all 11 million customers across the state of California are in that opt-out model. The reason for that primarily is that we have set really ambitious clean energy goals as a state of California. And if it were an opt-in model, we wouldn't see folks enrolling at quite the rate that we do. Typically across the board, when a new community joins, we see about 87%, 86% of folks remain with MCE service. That's kind of what it looks like in MCE service area here in Solano. And in order to continue to maintain that high rate, that's why there's an opt-out model, right? So you do always have the choice to opt out. You can call us directly, and we'll process that information for you and make sure that you can be returned to PG&E service. But hopefully that helps explain a little bit more. Marion, as a follow-up, says, of course I would be an MCE customer. I was asking about the true-up. I don't currently pay a true-up. That's great. So if you're not paying a true-up, that means that you are likely exporting excess energy to the grid, so you're not getting charged on an annual basis, which is a good thing. So that is going to remain the same with MCE, assuming your energy usage remains the same. You would just be compensated a little bit differently at the time of your cash out. My voice is a little bit hoarse at this point. I'm going to ask Jenna to take a couple of these questions. Can you speak to, I think, slide 15 regarding how the community investments are determined? From Darlene Burns.
Yes, absolutely. I was going through typing answers in the box as well. So slide 15 about community reinvestments. So our board of directors determines where we reinvest in our communities. So that's the benefit of having a local board of directors, is that they are able to tell us where in the community those dollars are most needed. So that could be energy efficiency programs, it could be electrification measures, or it could be clean transportation. So one of the ways that you can advocate for certain programs is you can go to your city council and you can let them know, hey, you know, here's really where we're needing things in the community. Or you're welcome to come to MCE's board meetings as well. And also folks like Sebastian and myself are out in the community listening to your needs as well. So that's how those are determined. They come to our board of directors based on recommendations from our community members and our staff.
Thanks, Jenna.
Yeah.
Yvonne asked one here as well, if you want to take that too, and then I could hop back in.
Yeah, so PG&E is a for-profit company. They do have shareholders that they have to meet certain expectations for those shareholders. MCE, we are a not-for-profit, which is a little bit different than a nonprofit because nonprofit is a tax-exempt status, but MCE is actually a government agency. So we are a not-for-profit, and we do not have any shareholders. So yes, essentially that is correct. And Sebastian, do you want me to take one more, or you want to take it back?
Yeah, if you don't mind taking Becky's question here, does going to MCE and or back to PG&E have any effect on my NEM 2.0? No, I mean, Becky, if you enrolled in that, you know, prior to the April deadline, you're still going to be on NEM 2.0. Jenna, I don't know if you want to expand on that anymore.
Nope, that's correct. Those NEM rates are set with PG&E, and they're part of your interconnection agreement.
Awesome. Melissa Bowles asks, I am currently on care and medical as well with PG&E. Does it still carry over? Yes, it absolutely does. You don't need to worry about that, Melissa. If you transition to MCE service, you'll still get those benefits. I also wanted to know, we pay the same amount every month for summer and same for winter. It takes how much you use for a 6-month program. Melissa, I would encourage you to reach out to us directly on that one so we can answer more about your bill specifically. You can send an email to info@mcecleanenergy.org. Yeah, happy to break down bill specific questions for you all there. Let's see, Sean Cunningham, you mentioned your customers save $90 million, but your rates break even or cost more. Elaborate. Is that due to solar surplus? Sean, not so much. I think we saved customers $90 million in 2022 because our rates were a little lower overall. And because what was happening in 2022 was that energy in the state of California was really incredibly expensive, just overall across the board due to supply chain issues coming out of COVID and just the energy market being really expensive for providers to go out and procure energy. So instead of having rates spike in 2022, what we did as an agency is absorb that cost for our customers without raising rates. We could have went and raised rates to customers to give kind of the fair market value of what we are getting, what we were contracting with developers for on the open market, but that wouldn't be equitable necessarily for our customers. So we absorbed that rate through our reserves in 2022, which is why they were significantly lower. Hopefully that answers questions, but happy to elaborate anymore. Michael, I suspect that the bill amounts were averages. Are there trends between PG&E and MCE? You showed the averages, but does that mean that folks with generally lower bills might find PG&E cheaper, and folks with generally higher bills might find PG&E cheaper? So what are the trends between the average data? Jenna, do you want to take that one? I'm not totally sure how to answer that.
Yes, let me just scroll down. So the numbers that we provide are an average. So they're based on a 500 kilowatt hour average monthly usage, which we recognize is low for a lot of folks, but that is the average across our service area. So lower bills might. So when we talk about right now, our customers on average are saving 1%, and that is more related to the rate that you're on than how much electricity you use. So if you're on a different rate, you might save a little bit more or a little bit less, depending on when you're using electricity. So that's mainly what impacts that.
Great, thanks, Jenna. Melissa asked, do you guys offer this? Melissa, I'm not sure what that means, so if you want to follow up in the chat, happy to answer. Yvonne asks, I noticed in 2021, PG&E CEO was paid a salary of $51 million. What would the salary of your CEO look like? So Yvonne, again, we are a local not-for-profit government agency. All of our salaries as public sector employees are available online. You can find that at any time. Just to give a sense of scale, I believe it was in the ballpark of like $400,000 relative to that, very high salary that you mentioned with PG&E. So hopefully that answers. If Eric follows up, if that's the case, why does our board not make these rates better? Jenna, do you want to take that one?
Absolutely. So MCE operates on what's called a cost of service model. So that means when we're looking at setting rates, we're looking at what programs are we offering customers and what does that cost? How do we maintain our reserves to ensure that we can maintain our credit ratings, which help us buy lower cost power? How are we compensating employees? How is our overhead being managed? And it looks at all of that together along with our power purchasing and says, okay, based on all of these things that are necessary and we need to continue providing excellent service to our customers, this is how much we think we should charge customers for that service. So MCE's rates historically have been a little bit more on the cheaper side compared to PG&E. But over time, especially in the past couple of years, energy costs have increased significantly. Our rates have had to go up as well to compensate that. So these rate setting discussions happen in public meetings with our board. Anytime those decisions are being made, there is a 30-day noticing period for public comment as well, where we provide information in local papers about the decision. And last year, we also issued a press release letting folks know that we were considering a rate change so that they could weigh in and attend the meetings. So there's lots of different ways that we advertise this for customers so that they can come and speak about what their needs are. But that's what essentially is being weighed. It's looking at all of the services that we offer and the clean power and saying what is the most cost-effective way to do this and what do we need to charge customers accordingly.
Thanks, Jenna. Anonymous attendee, why do you think people should go to MCE and stray from the status quo? Anonymous, I think this is really about choice in your power. You know, at the end of the day, we want to ensure that customers have a choice of where their energy is coming from. And right now, you only have one option. So with MCE, you're going to have multiple different options as to the source of your generation. And for the myriad of reasons that we've outlined tonight, we think that there's benefits to that. We really believe that having more renewable energy choices for consumers benefits both our local communities and our state overall. And the fact that this is locally controlled, that you have elected representatives on the board that are the same folks that are making decisions about your community here in Vacaville, we think that's a benefit. And so again, that choice is on the consumer, but we just want to provide the option either way. Did you say that MCE sends a true-up bill every month as opposed to PG&E's annual true-up bill? We don't send a true-up bill every month, Donna Biddle, but we do charge on a monthly basis for the delivery rates associated with your energy. So the way that it works is instead of getting one true-up at the end of the year, typically folks will get their PG&E bill if they're solar customers, and they'll have like an $8 charge, a $10 charge, a $12 charge. You're going to see that show up differently with MCE. You'll get charged on a monthly basis, typically $50, $60 for the average solar customer. I really hate to put a ballpark figure on it, but like I think that's what most solar folks will see. At the time of their true up, folks are compensated at the wholesale rate plus 2 cents. So you're getting cashed out for the excess generation at a higher rate with MCE than you are with PG&E. And so the point of this is to help alleviate that one big annual true up. And that's kind of how our solar works. Chris Diner, should your board for some reason increase rates well above PG&E, how easy would it be for us to then opt out and go back to PG&E? I don't think that would happen, Chris. I think the board is really committed to ensuring that our rates are just and in line with PG&E's to the best of their ability. But, if rates did go up for whatever reason, you do have the choice to opt out of MCE service. You can do that at any time. I do want to call out though, if you opt out of MCE service, you can't return for 1 year. So that's a rule that's set, but you are able to opt out. Chuck asks, what benefits are there to churches and other nonprofit organizations? I think there's a bunch of benefits, Chuck. Like from an energy efficiency standpoint, you heard me talk a little bit about our strategic energy management programs. Churches can sometimes be using high energy, so we can work with you to be more energy efficient. Other nonprofit organizations, so part of what we do on our team is we do have a sponsorship budget to work with nonprofit organizations to partner with them on community events and be out there in the community. So this could be, working with a nonprofit organization to set up a table at a local event and talk about our programs together. So that's part of the reinvestment that we're able to make on our local community. You say that MCE is a not-profit, but MCE must charge more than just the cost of providing electricity in order to generate the excess funds that you invest in the community. True. we're a not-for-profit, Donna Biddle. That doesn't mean that we don't collect revenues. We still need to be able to operate a business and contract for power, and be able to finance community programs like our EV charging program that I mentioned. So in nature, we are a not-for-profit public agency. We're not paying shareholders, but there still does need to be a business model in place to be able to, provide different services. And I see Jenna's typing there as well. So she can follow up. Yvonne says, thank you. Thank you, Yvonne, for attending tonight. You make it happen. It's all about being civically engaged, invested in your community, and we really appreciate that. And it's why we do the work that we do at MCE. Melissa says, it is connected. I'm assuming it is connected to my first question about current billing. Can you write the website for me again? I was just coming into the room. Yeah, let's drop this for you in the chat. mcecleanenergy.org. I'm putting it in the chat function here. There you go. Does the delivery, all right, so from Anonymous, does the delivery fee that PG&E still charges when we switch to MCE increase from the current rate? No, it doesn't, Anonymous. So PG&E, no matter whether you're a PG&E customer for your generation or an MCE customer, you're still gonna pay that same delivery rate. So it's the same regardless. If our usage stays the exact same, will we still pay the exact fee to PG&E or they increase it? Yeah, so you're still gonna pay the same either way, Anonymous. I think what people are trying to figure out is if PG&E is paying their CEO 50 million and yours is 400,000, but your pricing is basically saying, what is the deal? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Eric, but happy to answer any follow-up questions that you have. Yvonne, just a raw shout out. I appreciate that you answered my questions regarding PG&E status. Yeah, no, Yvonne, thank you again, truly. Sean Cunningham, would you say PG&E sees this program as a threat to their business model or as a necessary energy partner? What I'll say, Sean, is that we have a strong relationship with PG&E. We, at the end of the day, in order to serve our customers with renewable energy, we need to coordinate with their staff that the power is being delivered. We have our customer operations team has regular meetings with PG&E to address any billing issues. As in terms of a threat to their business model, not necessarily. PG&E makes their revenues, and I don't want to speak for PG&E, but just at a high level, like they are making revenues primarily based on the infrastructure that they install and are able to recoup costs based in their general rate case, which gets approved by the CPUC. So it's, on the generation side of things, it's I don't know that they would consider a threat to their business model, but thank you. Okay, I think we got through all of these, pending any follow-up to Eric's question on what's the deal.
I think I'll try to answer this a little bit. I think that the easiest way to explain this is that electricity rates are primarily based on what it costs to provide that electricity, right? So in MCE's case, we have talked about the actual cost of the power contract. We've talked about our staffing. We've talked about our reserves and also our programs, right? So those are kind of the things that factor into what is necessary for us to set our rates where they need to be for us to remain financially stable. So staff salaries do factor into that. But the cost of power, as one of the slides that Sebastian showed, 86% of our revenues go back into purchasing power. So the cost of power is the biggest defining factor here. When MCE first launched, electricity was much cheaper than it is today, and at the time was much cheaper than it previously was when PG&E entered into long-term contracts. However, over the last couple of years, because the cost of energy has risen so much, it's become much more expensive to contract for that power, partially due to a more competitive market, increasing renewable energy targets, and a variety of other factors that go into those contracting deals. So MCE has to go out into the market and purchase energy for those things. But PG&E is not going out into the market and purchasing power so much anymore. They know that community choice providers are serving the bulk of their load now. We represent 60% or more of PG&E's existing load, so not just MCE, but all of the community choice providers. And what that means is they're able to hold on to their cheaper legacy contracts and get rid of more expensive ones over time. And so that means that they don't have to raise their rates as much. And MCE is responsible for finding the way to pay for that more expensive power. Oh, excuse me. So that's where you see the differential of we don't have shareholders. And so what we're charging customers is primarily based on the cost of power versus PG&E, their contracts may be cheaper, but then they're also upcharging for shareholders and the other things that are associated with it. And you know, a large part of what PG&E does is maintain the infrastructure for customers, and that infrastructure needs some serious upgrades. So that is part of rate increases as well. So it's a pretty complicated, you know, system, but that's kind of the easiest summary that I think I could provide.
Thanks, Jenna. I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat, but if I'm mistaken, somebody let me know.
Yeah, seeing a couple new questions come in.
Yeah, sure. So anonymous, in an unplanned outage, who would we contact if under MCE? Still PG&E, since they're still maintaining the infrastructure, like Jenna mentioned. So yeah, that's still PG&E. Melanie asks, you mentioned you communicate with PG&E regarding billing issues. What types of billing issues do customers typically have? Great question, Melanie. I don't want to make like any blanket statements here, but the coordination meetings that we do have with PG&E are really just about, you know, you have a meter at your electric home that reads data on your energy usage, and that information is transmitted to MCE, you know, on a monthly basis, right? And so sometimes folks will have questions about, hey, my usage was a little bit high this month, like what was the case for that? Maybe there was, you know, inaccurate reading, whatever. It kind of runs the gamut of different issues. But Jenna, curious to hear if you have any thoughts here as well.
Yeah, so some of the larger billing issues, which aren't necessarily something that would impact customers, but something that we want to stay coordinated with PG&E on would be making sure that if rates are changed, that customers are being billed appropriately, that if there are any major change to discount programs or new discount programs or payment plans, that those are being accurately placed on customers' bills. But some of the individual issues that we might encounter are folks seeing issues with maybe missing a month of billing, or things. Most often, I would say what we encounter is solar customers seeing some issues with their bills, and then also opting out if a customer chooses to opt out, making sure that that is processed and that customers are getting the service that they want. So most of the time things run smoothly, but you know, it's as Sebastian mentioned, we have 580,000 accounts and PG&E is managing millions of accounts. So sometimes small things happen, and we just make sure that customers are not paying additional costs for any issues that might happen on the back end.
Thank you, Jenna. You said what I was trying to say, but I was not coherent in my response. So I appreciate that response there. FR Kirby, please help me understand the impact of MCE when I have solar reporting to PG&E, and do have some true up if MCE is supplying the electricity. Let's see here. So on the MCE portion of your question, FR, when your solar is not generating, let's say in the evening time, you're drawing power from the grid. So as a PG&E customer, if you have solar, the generation that you're drawing is coming from PG&E. The only difference is that when you're not drawing power from the, or when you are drawing power from the grid, when your solar is not producing, let's say at midnight, for example, and you flip the light switch on, that power is coming from MCE. And I see Jenna is also responding here in the chat. So I think she's going to answer that for you, FR, just in text. And I'll answer some of these other questions that have come up in the chat while she's doing that. Darlene, does MCE also work with commercial or large industrial customers or only residential? Yes, we work with all of them. So any eligible electric account automatically enrolls in MCE service, and commercial and residential customers alike have that ability to opt out, but we do work with both customers. What types of issues are those you just said for solar customers? Marion, I think it's largely solar customers calling in and just asking very specific questions about their bills, like, hey, I'm not understanding why I'm being charged on a monthly basis, or hey, I'm not understanding, why my solar wasn't producing at the level that I think it is, and us walking them through kind of that process. So it really, varies from customer to customer, but those are some of the main ones we see. People just wanting a little bit more understanding of their bill.
I'll also just clarify my earlier comment about billing issues with PG&E. I mentioned solar customers. That was an example because we do see that solar customer bills are a little bit more complicated. And so managing that true-up process and making sure that when a solar customer opts out, that whole process is handled appropriately so that you don't lose any credit. That's something that we really, really pay attention to. So it's not that there are a lot of issues, it's just that it's something that we're very aware of because solar bills are more complicated. So just to explain that a little bit further.
Not seeing any new questions in the chat here. Can I ask you all a question, if you're open to it? So we've been in Solano County now since 2015, when we started serving Benicia, and we're getting to learn the communities that we serve more and more. But as a new community, we're always looking for ways to engage with the Vacaville community. If you all decide to join, what are some of your favorite things to do in Vacaville? What do you like about living in Vacaville? I'd be really curious to hear if you're open to it. No takers? I'm sure there's one person that has something good to say about the city of Vacaville and living there. I'll just say this past weekend, we were at the Fairfield Blues, Brews, and Barbecue Festival, and I had a great time talking to folks while enjoying some incredible brisket. So I'm hoping there's more community events like that. Okay, sorry to get sidetracked here. C. Carter has a question. Can you explain more on the possibility of rebates available? Yeah, sure. C. Carter, what type of rebates are you interested in? I think we have a whole bunch. So happy to answer specific ones. On the customer program side of things, we offer a rebate towards the purchase of electric vehicles, which can be stacked with other rebates and incentives that are available throughout the state. A lot of folks don't realize it, but you can end up saving, in some cases, up to like $14,000 towards the purchase of a new EV. That's one. We have a number of energy efficiency rebates that are available. So in the event that you want to do some energy efficiency measures at your home, maybe installing some low flow water faucets and aerators or mini splits, things of that sort, we have rebates for that. What else? For cities and counties that are enrolled in MCE, we offer charging rebates to install new infrastructure. That's just to name a few. But happy to expand on that anymore if that didn't answer your question. Oh, I see some Vacaville responses here. Love it. Vacaville remains with small town atmosphere. Love it. Creek Walk this summer, Lemonade Day. I would love to learn more about that. Sounds like an awesome event. Beautiful trails, great neighbors, safe neighborhoods. This is all so encouraging to hear. Thank you. C. Carter, I see Jenna's responding to your rebates question, so maybe you'll get more detail. HVAC, other home rebates. Yeah, so I can't speak to HVAC. Jenna, if we have a rebate for that, let me know. But we do offer a $1,000 rebate for electric heat pump water heaters. So that's a thing that you'd be eligible for.
Yeah, I don't believe we have any, we definitely don't have any single family residential HVAC upgrades at this time. But we are moving in the direction of rebates for heat pumps primarily. So for our other energy efficiency programs, I'm not sure how much we provide for any other HVAC upgrades.
Aaron says they like Lagoon Valley, lots of trails. Yeah, I'm Googling that now. It looks like it's some beautiful space. Anonymous says, thanks for taking the time to do this. Very informative presentation. It's nice to have the opportunity to hear the facts. Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're here for. I know things can get a little bit challenging in the age of social media, right? You're seeing a whole bunch of stuff posted online, and it's always great to be able to connect with the community in person. Well, not in person in this instance, we're online, obviously, but like just hearing from you all. So I appreciate that sentiment. All right, well, I see some folks trickling out of the room. We do have about 17 more attendees, so happy to stick around a bit if y'all have more questions. Thank you on rebates. Would like more specific sent to me if possible. My connection keeps cutting out. Thanks. Yeah, C. Carter, let me drop a link in the chat here. Okay, so I just dropped our customer programs. That's going to give you just kind of a whole overview of everything that we offer, so you can kind of pick and choose what you think is the most interesting to you there. I'm sorry, I may be mispronouncing your name, but Chris Shaheen says, you said earlier MCE isn't always going to be cheaper than PG&E, and you all want to stay transparent about that. Why do you think people expect clean energy to be cheaper than the alternative? I don't know that people do expect clean energy to be cheaper than the alternative, Chris. That wasn't the case, 10 years ago, as a lot of solar and wind was being built out in the state of California. It was more expensive, and that's not the case anymore. I think that we have demonstrated at MCE and across the state, the fact that CCAs are serving 11 million customers, that there's a market for clean energy. So folks are building these resources, and there's folks that are willing to contract with them, like MCE. So I don't know that people expect clean energy to be cheaper than the alternative. I think like sometimes when something's new, people want to see the cost savings. Of course, as a consumer, you always want to do what's best for you in that regard. But as Jen has mentioned, we do offer that cost of service model. So we offer a lot of benefits as well to our customers. Everyone wants cheaper rates than PG&E because they are so expensive. Marion summed things up a lot better than my long-winded answer there. Yeah, Marion, I think the transmission and distribution rates that you're paying the delivery, that's still going to remain the same. We don't have control over that, but we do try to control for our generation rates as best we can and make sure that you're getting the best value as an MCE customer. Okay. Well, Angelina, I know we had the schedule to go until 8 p.m., but I'm not seeing a whole lot more questions, and participation is kind of dwindling a little bit. Do you want to stick around a little bit longer, or up to you as the city?
We can leave it open for another 5 minutes or so if anybody has any questions. And if anybody does have questions, Sebastian has been gracious enough to provide MCE's email. You're welcome to reach out to them directly. And if you can't find that email, you can always reach out to the contact us page at the city, and we will pass those emails along as well. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, Sebastian and Jenna, for answering all of our questions. And if anybody found this helpful, wants to attend another one, we have this webinar, or we will have this webinar taped and on our website, as well as MCE's previous information session that they did a few weeks ago in our council chambers. And we also have one more that we will be hosting on, and I've forgotten the date already. I believe it's the
May
16th. May 16th. Yep. May 16th, and that will be at Ulatis Community Center again in person. So if you found this helpful and you'd like to go ahead and convince others to attend, May 16th will be their opportunity. No passwords needed.
C. Carter, important for families to have opportunities to reduce rates as much as possible, including rebates. 100% agree. Hopefully the link that I sent over will help you learn a little bit more about what that looks like at MCE. So thank you.
Marion, to answer your question, yes, it was going to be at McBride, and then we had such overwhelming feedback that we were going to have more people than expected, so we moved it to a larger venue. So Ulatis it is.
All right, y'all. Well, again, thank you so much for attending this evening. If you want to hang out with us again, to Angelina's point, we'll be available in person on May 16th. Both MCE's website as well as the City of Vacaville's website are great resources. I encourage you to take a look at both of them. And of course, if you want to contact MCE directly, it's just info@mcecleanenergy.org. Yeah, and that's about it for the evening. So thank you again so much. And Angelina, I don't know if you have any closing remarks here.
Nope, that's it. You guys did a great job. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. And thank you to the City of Vacaville for hosting us.
Good night, all.
Good night, take care.